Today is Memorial Day. And on this Memorial Day, I'm doing one thing, just one video. And yes, it's a longer video, but I think it's important because today we say the names of the fallen. We reflect on them. We honor their sacrifice. The 13 American service members who've been killed in the war that President Donald Trump launched against Iran, while 400 or so of their brothers and sisters in uniform have been wounded. And today, we honor the memory of these 13. First, you have 6 American soldiers that died on the very first day of the war, March 1st, when an Iranian one-way attack drone evaded U.S. air defenses and struck their building in Kuwait. All of them members of the 103rd Sustainment Command, an Army Reserve unit out of Des Moines, Iowa. First, you have Captain Cody Cork, 35 years old, from Lakeland, Florida, enlisted in the National Guard back in 2009. He was commissioned through Florida Southern College's ROTC, and his family said his life was defined by devotion, character, and service, and that he was the life of the party. Sergeant First Class Noah Teachins, 42 years old, from Bellevue, Nebraska, a martial arts instructor, a father, and in the words of those who served with him, he was a proven leader. Sergeant First Class Nicole Amor, was 39 years old, from White Bear Lake, Minnesota, a mother of 2, her family calling her a Spitfire. Sergeant Declan J. Cody, 20 years old, from West Des Moines, a cybersecurity student at Drake University, taking his college classes online from Kuwait while he was serving our country. He dreamed of becoming an officer, and just the week before he was killed, he told his father that he'd been recommended for a promotion. He did receive that promotion posthumously. Major Jeffrey R. O'Brien, 45, from Waukee, Iowa, grew up on a farm, graduated from Northland High School, and earned a degree in computer engineering from Iowa State. He commissioned in the Army Reserve as a Signal Corps officer in 2012. And in civilian life, he was the manager of a defensive cyber operations at a cybersecurity firm in Coralville. He was a husband and a father to 3 kids. And his family said in a single sentence that I hope resonates with every American this Memorial Day: we've lost the most important man in our lives. Chief Warrant Officer 3, Robert M. Marzin, 54 years old, from Spotsylvania, Virginia. Bob enlisted in the active United States Army in 1990, serving 36 years in uniform. Deployed to Croatia and Bosnia in 96, Egypt and Kuwait in 19 and 20, and then in 2026 deployed again and didn't come home. He was a Bronze Star recipient. That same day, March 1st, an Iranian missile struck Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. Sergeant Benjamin N. Pennington, 26 years old, from Glendale, Kentucky, assigned to the 1st Space Battalion, 1st Space Brigade at Fort Carson, Colorado. He fought for his life for a week, and he died of his wounds on March 8th. His commanding general said he was nothing less than a hero. Then on March 12th, a KC-135 Stratotanker, the refueling aircraft, went down in western Iraq. 6 airmen on board, all of them killed. Major John A. Klinner, 33 years old, from Auburn, Alabama, Chief of Squadron Standardizations and Evaluations at the 99th Air Refueling Squadron. Captain Ariana G. Savino, 31 years old, from Covington, Washington, her United States Senator calling her one of the best of her state and her country. Technical Sergeant Ashley Pruitt, 34 years old, from Bardstown, Kentucky. Captain Seth Koval, 38 years old, from Mooresville, Indiana, Ohio National Guard. Captain Curtis J. Angst, 30 years old, from Wilmington, Ohio, in the Ohio Air National Guard. Technical Sergeant Tyler H. Simmons, 28 years old, from Columbus, Ohio, also in the Ohio Air National Guard. A friend said of him very simply, he was just a really good dad. 13 Americans, from Florida to Washington State, from Iowa to Alabama. Mothers, fathers, siblings, friends, children. A 20-year-old all the way up to a 54-year-old. And on this Memorial Day, I ask the same question every Memorial Day without exception. What did they die for? And when I ask that, I also look back at people like Crispus Attucks, the man on my shirt here. Crispus Attucks was a former slave living in Boston in 1770, a man that found his way to freedom, though it didn't start that way. And on March 5th, 1770, when British soldiers opened fire on a crowd of Bostonians in what we now call the Boston Massacre, Crispus Attucks was the first man to die, the first American killed in the cause of American independence. He died for a country that at the moment of his death didn't even exist. And even once it did exist, would not legally consider men like him fully human for another 95 or so years. And the fight for rights of those like him continued to this day. What did Crispus Attucks die for? And I'll get to that in a little bit. But also, what did these 13 brave souls die for this year? And before I get to that any further, when I ask what these 13 died for, I'm not saying they died for nothing. This is a very important distinction. The reasons they were sent over there, bluster, vanity, a distraction strategy from a man who's never cared about anyone but himself. Those reasons are garbage. Those reasons never should have sent a single American into harm's way. But for these 13, they did not die in vain, because we are going to remember them. We're going to say their names, and we are going to remember the lessons of their sacrifice, of what happens when a country lets a tyrannical leader send its young people into a war that they can't define, for objectives that the president can't articulate, while his own family profits off the flag-draped coffins. But like I said, we can look at the disgusting behavior and disrespect that led to this grateful nation mourning their deaths. To start, why did we even go to war? What does victory look like in this war? What does the end of this war look like, and when will it come? When the Pentagon press secretary was asked to define the military objectives of Operation Epic Fury, he couldn't do it. And your commander-in-chief routinely says that the war is going to last a few more weeks. Basic facts elude this administration. And right now, a few months in, the United States and Iran are sitting on a fragile ceasefire that, as we tape this, is already falling apart. And now the Pentagon is reportedly trying to rebrand the entire operation, literally renaming it, because the original sales pitch, this 12-day war, the decisive blow, fell apart the minute it was confronted with reality. So what did Captain Cork die for? What did 20-year-old Sergeant Cody die for? What did Sergeant Pennington, 26 years old, from Glendale, Kentucky, fighting for a week before his body gave up, what did he die for? The President of the United States can't tell you. Months in, he can't tell you. And square that with what we know was happening in this country in the days before Trump launched this war. We know the Justice Department was releasing the Epstein files. The president's name is in the files. And his relationship with a convicted child trafficker was the dominant story in American politics. Trump was losing in the swing states. He was, by his own past words, exactly the kind of president who, in his exact phrasing from 2011 and 2012, would start a war with Iran to distract from political weakness. Because that's what Donald Trump accused Barack Obama of doing and being on the verge of doing over and over for years. Now, we may never have that smoking gun evidence that proves that Trump started a war to bury a child abuse scandal. But what we do have is something almost as damning. We have the president's pattern. We have his own words from 15 years ago, accusing another president of doing exactly the thing he just did. We also know something else. We know who's making money off this war. You see in the reports that the brokerage account in Donald Trump's name spent this war buying defense stocks. Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, buying oil and gas stocks, Phillips 66, Exxon, Chevron. It bought gold, it bought treasuries, and it positioned itself to win if the war drags on longer. While the president was telling the American people that the war would end soon, the account in his name was betting that it wouldn't. And his sons, Eric and Donald Jr., have invested in drone companies competing for Pentagon contracts. His son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who has served as one of Trump's Iran envoys, is reportedly trying to raise billions of dollars for his private equity fund from the very Persian Gulf governments that are tangled up in this war. And on one Monday in March, $580 million in oil futures flooded the market in a sudden spike with no public news to explain it, until 16 minutes later when Donald Trump announced a pause in strikes on Iranian power plants. Somebody knew, somebody traded on it. And it's very clear that these 13 brave souls, we need to remember that they didn't die so that somebody on a private equity roadshow could pad their bank account. But they did perish. And someone very close to the president who sent them to war is getting rich.
People don't like it when you say, oh, do you know you've lost 13? We've lost in two major wars. We took over Venezuela. We essentially took over Iran. And we've lost so far 13 people. Somebody else would have lost 100,000 people, okay? But I get a kick when I look at somebody on television. He's lost 13 people. I lost 13 people. They lost 13 people leaving an airport.
And plus, we cannot forget that the man who sent these 13 Americans into the war that cost them their lives has spent years in public and private telling us exactly who he is and exactly how he feels about our American service members. Memorial Day 2017, according to General John Kelly, Trump stood at the grave of Kelly's own son, Robert Kelly, a Marine killed in Afghanistan, buried at Arlington National Cemetery, and asked, quote, "I don't get it. What was in it for them?" Trump couldn't process serving this country without personal gain. That same year, his chief of staff says Trump refused to visit an American cemetery in France because it was full of, quote, suckers and, quote, losers. His chief of staff is on record for this. The reporting is confirmed. His chief of staff also said that Trump didn't want wounded amputees included at a White House military event because, in Trump's own words, it doesn't look good for me. Trump cares more about the aesthetic than the sacrifice. Trump has also said that the Presidential Medal of Freedom was much better than the Medal of Honor, the highest decoration this country can give. Because in his words, Medal of Honor recipients are soldiers who are either in very bad shape because they've been hit so many times by bullets, or they're dead. The Veterans of Foreign Wars, the VFW, publicly admonished Trump for it. In August of 2024, his presidential campaign filmed political content in Section 60 of Arlington National Cemetery, the section where America's most recent war dead are buried. And the United States Army confirmed that a cemetery employee was abruptly shoved aside when trying to enforce the rules against political activity over the graves. At a rally that same year, Trump mocked Nikki Haley's husband, Michael Haley, who was at that moment deployed with the South Carolina Army National Guard in the Horn of Africa. And Donald Trump had the nerve to ask, what happened to her husband? Where is he? He's gone. In 2017, after Sergeant LaDavid Johnson was killed, his widow, Maisha Johnson, said the president told her that her husband knew what he signed up for and could barely remember his name. 2019, in Japan, the White House reportedly ordered the United States Navy to keep the USS John S. McCain out of his sightline. A tarp was reportedly used to cover McCain's name on the ship, and sailors with McCain's name on their cap were reportedly given the day off, all because the president hated John McCain, a Vietnam prisoner of war who refused early release from a North Vietnamese prison camp. Remember, in 2015, Trump said of McCain, he's not a war hero. He was a war hero because he was captured. I like people who weren't captured. 2017, a Pentagon meeting, according to multiple reporters, telling the generals of the United States military to their faces, I wouldn't go to war with you people. You're a bunch of dopes and babies. That's why he hired Hegseth. In 2020, when asked about U.S. intelligence reporting that Russia had paid bounties for the deaths of American troops in Afghanistan, he said that he never raised it with Vladimir Putin. He called the intelligence on dead Americans a hoax. And in 2024, according once again to General John Kelly, the same man whose son is buried at Arlington, Trump said he wanted, quote, the kind of generals that Hitler had, personally loyal. Not those that are loyal to the Constitution, loyal to him. That's the record of the man who sent brave soldiers into the war that took their lives. When the first three had been killed, he said this to NBC News. We have 3, but we expect casualties. But in the end, it's going to be a great deal for the world. A great deal. He inserted 3 dead soldiers within 48 hours of their deaths into a cost-benefit analysis. And then in a video posted to social media the same day, he said, sadly, there will likely be more. That's the way it is. That's the way it is, according to Donald Trump. Look, Memorial Day is one of the only days on the American calendar that exists for a single purpose. Not a sale, not a barbecue, a purpose. Memorial Day exists so that a free country every single year stops to say the names of the people who died for its freedom, to stop, to look at their photographs, to say their names out loud, and to ask honestly what they died for. And I'll tell you what I believe they died for, and I'll tell you what I believe Crispus Attucks died for 250 some odd years ago. The first American to die for a country that didn't even yet exist. They all died for the same thing. The pursuit of a more perfect union. Our country's never been perfect, it never will be. We were founded with slavery written into our laws. We were founded with women excluded from democracy. We've done terrible things inside our own borders and even worse things outside of them. We are not perfect now, and we will never be perfect. But it is the pursuit of perfection. The pursuit is what differentiates us. The pursuit is what our brave souls fought and died for. That's why I get offended at 2 concepts here. When I see "Make America Great Again," first of all, there is no great America to go back to. The greatness is not behind us. But the second, conversely, and some of you guys have said this, the question that gets thrown back at it: when was America truly great? And my answer to both is the same. America, as this grand experiment, has both always been great and has never achieved full greatness. We cannot achieve full perfection. We can't achieve full greatness. Yet those shouldn't be the goal. The goal should be the pursuit of greatness, the pursuit of perfection, the pursuit of a more perfect union. Sure, America's never been truly great as a finished product, but as a concept, as an experiment, I firmly believe that we are the greatest nation on this planet. Right now, yeah, other nations may do a lot of things better than us. They most certainly do right now. But the fact that you and I will continue to pursue greatness, to continue to pursue perfection, to continue to pursue life, liberty, and justice, and the pursuit of happiness, that's why I love this country. It's also why I criticize this country so heavily, because I am interested in the pursuit of a more perfect union. That's what Crispus Attucks died for. That's what these 13 died for, the pursuit of a more perfect union. They didn't die in vain. Their deaths will ring out through the ages as a cautionary tale against pointless wars, against imperial vanity, against the kind of leader who, when American soldiers are dying, calls it a great deal for the world. But the man who sent them, he can't answer why they were sent to perish. He's had months to answer it, and he can't. He's had years of public life to show us how he thinks about our American service members, and he's shown us time and time again, suckers, losers, dopes, babies. And what was in it for them? Well, we at the Ring of Fire, and I hope you know the answer. What was in it for them? Everything. They gave everything to us and for us. So today I'm not going to ask you to subscribe. I'm not going to ask you to comment. I'm asking you, whatever your beliefs are, to spend the next few moments reflecting on these 13 humans who gave everything. Whether it's a prayer or a thought or good vibes, whatever it may be, I want you to reflect on Captain Cody Cork, on Sergeant First Class Noah Teachins, on Sergeant First Class Nicole Emmer, on Sergeant Declan Cody, Major Jeffrey O'Brien, Chief Warrant Officer Robert Marzin, Sergeant Benjamin Pennington, Major John Clinner, Captain Ariana Savino, Technical Sergeant Ashley Pruitt, Captain Seth Koval, Captain Curtis Angst, and Technical Sergeant Tyler Simmons. We see you, we honor you, we will remember you always. Thank you for your service and your sacrifice.